Hi, and welcome to BeatleDave's Beatles channel. Today's video is episode 8 of the solo years, so please come and join me. So hello again and welcome to BeatleDave's Beatles channel. Here we are all again, guys. I hope you're really well out there and thank you so much for joining me again today on the channel. So today's video is episode 8 of the solo years, the 1970s, and I'm going to be looking at the first official Wings album, which is Wings Wildlife. And I've got to say, actually, it's not really one of my favourite Paul or Wings albums. I mean, I like 2 or 3 of the songs, but it just doesn't do much for me. I've really tried to get into it, but I just haven't connected with it musically. Sorry, Paul. So in this series, I will be showing every single Beatles solo album in order of release from the 1970s, also including any USA issues and reissues within the time frame, and of course any 8 tracks along the way as well. So now it's time for something a little bit different. It's Ask BeatleDave, yeah! So yes, welcome to Ask BeatleDave, where I'll be answering your questions that you have about anything Beatles related, anything to do with the guys' solo careers or films, just about anything that you can think of, and I'll endeavour to answer it right here for you guys. So today's question then is from Beatle Brad. How you doing, Brad? Hope you're well. Don't forget to check out Brad's channel, it's really cool. Anyway, he asks, BeatleDave, what was the first solo albums that you bought from each of the Fabs? So good question there, Brad, and actually I'm going to tell you the first 2 albums I got from each ex-Beatle. So starting with John Lennon, and obviously the 2 which I got at the time was Imagine and Plastic Ono Band. Now these both would have been the early 1980s pressings of those albums, but I really enjoyed playing them, and obviously Plastic Ono Band was quite a harrowing listen as I was in my early teenage years at the time. Going on to Paul, his first 2 albums that I got was Back to the Egg and his superb LP Tug of War. I mean, these are both very enjoyable and fantastic albums, and I listen to these albums constantly, and certainly these would have been 2 of my top 5 Paul McCartney albums of all time. So on to George then, and my first 2 were the All Things Must Pass triple album box set, which cost me $8.99 at the time, and also a second-hand copy of one of my favourite George albums, which is Wonderwall. And I can tell you, I absolutely played and enjoyed those albums just so much. I was just totally hooked. I absolutely loved them to pieces. So lastly, but certainly not least then, on to Ringo, and my first 2 LPs I brought from him was Stop and Smell the Roses and Rotogravia. And obviously Stop and Smell the Roses hadn't actually been out that long, and I really enjoyed that album because you had some ex-Beatle involvement on there, as indeed there was on his 1976 album Rotogravia. Another fabulous Ringo album, and I loved playing that album as well. I mean, these albums were the first albums I got into my solo Beatles journey, and why not let me know your choices, guys? So Brad, I really hope that answers that question for you. And guys, if you want to contribute to Ask BeatleDave, just send me a question in the comments and I'll include it in a future episode. It's that simple. So come on guys, please me by getting involved and ask me some super questions. Okay then, we're going to be moving on, and of course it's time for I Call Your Name. So yes, it's them old shout-outs, and it's a great big BeatleDave hello to Neil Stroming, Eulalie Bong, Peter Zurib, how you doing Peter? Joe D, Zappa2958, Sailor Sam, how you doing Sailor Sam? And Invisible Ray, so that's a special big hi to you guys from yours truly, BeatleDave. So on to the main event then today, and of course it's the Solo Years episode 8, and it's the Wings Wildlife LP. So come and join me. The debut studio album Wildlife by Wings was released in the UK and the USA on the 7th of December 1971 and was the 3rd studio album by Paul McCartney after the breakup of the Beatles. Recorded in 8 days from the 25th of July to the 2nd of August 1971 at EMI Abbey Rd Studios, Wings now consisted of McCartney, his wife Linda, session drummer Denny Sywell from the Ram sessions, and newly recruited guitarist Denny Laine, formerly of the Moody Blues. With a fresh set of newly written McCartney songs, the newly formed Wings recorded the album in just over a week, with the mindset that it had to be instant and raw in order to capture the freshness and vitality of a live studio recording. The album was previously rehearsed at McCartney's recording studio in Scotland, which was called Rd Studio, where Paul and Linda had used to make demos that would eventually turn up on Wildlife. Dear Friend, recorded during the Ram sessions, was apparently an attempt at reconciliation with John Lennon, which followed Lennon's attack on McCartney in the song How Do You Sleep from the album Imagine, which had also in turn been in retaliation for McCartney's perceived digs at Lennon on the Ram album. The album also included a remake of Mickey and Sylvia's 1957 top 40 hit Love Is Strange, which was nearly released as a single in the UK, with promotional singles being pressed, but was cancelled due to the poor reception of the LP. The liner notes for Wildlife and also on the Thrillington album were credited to Clint Harrigan, but in 1990 McCartney admitted to a journalist that he was in fact Harrigan. On the 8th of November 1971, Wings held a press party in London to announce both the group and the album Wildlife. However, it was released to lukewarm critical and commercial reaction and only managed to reach number 11 in the UK and number 10 in the USA, where it did actually manage to go gold. So let's take a look. So here it is then, the Wings album Wildlife, released in the UK on the 7th of December 1971 on Apple Records catalogue number PCS 7142. So a great photo then of Wings Mark I, which was taken in Osterley Park in London, West London, not so far from Hounslow. And of course you've got the Wings Mark I lineup then of Denny Sywell. Then you've got Paul in the water, with of course Linda and Denny Laine there sitting on the branch as well. Of course, on the front, there's no knowing as to what this album's called until you flip it over. And then, of course, we've got Wings Wildlife there. And on the top right with the catalogue number and stereo. So the tracks on side 1 are Mumbo, Bebop, Love Is Strange, which was written actually by Baker and Smith, and Wildlife, and all those other tracks are written by Paul and Linda. With side 2 being Some People Never Know, I Am Your Singer, Tomorrow, which is probably my favourite song on the album, and Dear Friend, with all those 4 tracks written by Paul and Linda. And of course, Dear Friend is supposed to be like an olive branch out to John Lennon. And then we got a couple of paragraphs written by this guy called Clint Harrigan, which is actually Paul McCartney. Of course, at the bottom there, we got the engineers, which is Tony Clark and Alan Parsons, the recorders, photo by Barry Lakegan, typo by Gordon House and McCartney Productions Inc. 1971, with no doubt a doodle by Paul McCartney there of the band. And bottom right, an Apple record and EMI recording, printed and made in England. So let's just check out that spine then. It's quite a nice spine. Wings Wildlife with the catalogue number, bottom right. So with your original pressing then of Wings Wildlife, you had an original yellow inner sleeve. It's in great shape, this one. So on to the first issue vinyl then. Of course we got slightly different labels on this one. It's quite a dark label this side. But you got a lot of information there. And at the top there on the left you got stereo with the catalogue number and P1971 with Wings Wildlife there. And below that you've got an Apple record and EMI recording with the song titles there right at the bottom. Then on the right side there, if you turn it round, you got published by Northern Songs, also claimed by Kidney Punch Music, and also published by Cromwell Music, produced by Paul and Linda McCartney. The photo taken for this label was by Linda McCartney. So the matrix on this side one then is YEX871-1. And this was the first time that Paul started using different labels on his records. Not on the singles so much, but obviously on the albums. And obviously the last time he used the actual full Granny Smith was on Ram. So let's flip that over then to side 2. And now we've got a picture of Linda on this particular side. Obviously there you've got on the left hand side, you've got published by Northern Songs, also claimed by Kidney Punch Music, produced by Paul and Linda McCartney. Of course, Paul took the photo of Linda. And at the top there you've got stereo with the catalogue number PCS 7142 and the P1971. And then we've got the 33 1/3 manufactured in the UK. With on the right there you've got an Apple record and EMI recording. With the Wings Wildlife there, and of course all the song listings right at the bottom. And then the matrix then on side 2 is YEX 872-1. And it's, you know, like I said previously, you know, I'm not really into this album, but I keep trying, I keep listening, and there's a couple of songs I really do like Tomorrow, and obviously Dear Friend, but just can't get into it musically, I'm afraid. But it's okay, it's not too bad. So on to the USA pressing then of Wings Wildlife, released on the 7th of December 1971 on Apple Records, catalogue number SW3386. So on to the sleeve first, exactly the same photo as the previous edition. This time we get a hype sticker showing what album it is and who it's by. Still got the shrink on here, which is fantastic, but it looks absolutely superb condition. It's got the brief holes in as well. As you can see on the back, once again, we've got Wings Wildlife with the track listing side 1 and 2, the little essay by Clint Harrigan with all the same details bottom left with the engineers, recorders, photo, etc. and McCartney Productions Inc. 1971 with the same doodle. And on the right hand side there you've got an Apple record with the catalogue number and of course manufactured by Apple Records Inc. 1700 Broadway, New York. Fantastic stuff. And there we got the spine in its shrink wrap, of course. Unfortunately, with the USA edition, there's no yellow inner sleeve, but we've got an Apple Records Type 1 from the time, and that one's in perfect condition. So on to the first pressing USA vinyl then, and we got the same labels, with Paul on the first label, as you can see. On the top left there we got stereo with the catalogue number SW3386. And then of course we got Wings Wildlife there below that with an Apple record. And at the bottom there we got the track listings. And spinning it 90 degrees we got some more information there, which is published by McLean Music Inc. BMI, also claimed by Kidney Punch Music BMI. And then published by Benghazi Music Co. BMI. Produced by Paul and Linda McCartney. Photo by Linda, with the matrix being on side 1, SW-1-3386. So flipping that over then to side 2, and of course we've got some information on the left there at the side, which is published by McLean Music Inc. BMI, also claimed by Kidney Punch Music. Produced by Paul and Linda McCartney, and photo of course of Linda by Paul. So spinning it back round there, and the information at the top there is stereo with the catalogue number, and on the right there you've got an Apple record with Wings Wildlife and all the tracks listed at the bottom, with the matrix being on side 2, SW-2-3386. Once again this one sounds pretty good, just as good as the UK edition. So the final Wings Wildlife item I'm going to show today then is the USA 8-track edition, released on the 7th of December 1971 on Apple Records and Tapes, catalogue number 8WX3386. As you can see then, it's completely sealed, absolutely fantastic condition. Obviously these are getting much harder to find these days, with completely sealed ones, you know, rarely coming up for sale, but it's in beautiful condition. Of course, you've got the photo of the guys there in Osterley Park with Wings Wildlife, program 1, 2, 3 and 4, with split tracks on a couple of different programs with Apple 8-track stereo. So flipping that over then, on the back, Apple 8-track stereo warranty, bit of information there with of course a continuous play 8-track cartridge and that Apple logo right at the bottom. Then right at the top then, we got Apple 8-track stereo, with at the bottom Wings Wildlife and of course the catalogue number. It's in beautiful condition and absolutely worth collecting. So thank you all for joining me today, guys, and tuning in on the solo years, and I really hope you've enjoyed seeing the Wings wildlife items that I've shown you in this episode. And of course, I really appreciate any comments or communication I get from any of you Beatles people, and I'll always come back to you just as soon as I can. So the next episode of the solo years will be back again next month with the George Harrison and Friends album, The Concert for Bangladesh, which is obviously a triple album box set, and it's also an absolutely amazing concert. So the next video then, I've decided to show a selection of unauthorised albums or bootlegs which I've collected over the years, and is a really important part of collecting in the music world. So don't forget to join me again in 2 weeks, same Beatles time, same Beatles channel. Anyway, as always, if you enjoy what I'm doing, why not give us a like, subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future videos. This is BeatleDave signing off. BeatleDave's Beatles channel.